In this lecture, I'll be discussing the rotational Raman spectra. So far, we had seen the basic theory, the quantum and the classical explanation to Raman effect. We had seen pure rotation spectra and pure vibration spectra. So in this lecture, we'll see how the rotational spectra is affected in the presence of a Raman effect. Okay, so what rotational energy levels do we have for any given molecule? Okay, before that, why is rotational Raman spectra useful? See, pure vibration spectra and pure rotational spectra are not very useful for molecules which don't have permanent dipole moment in case of microwave spectroscopy or rotational spectra, and no change in the dipole moment in case of vibration spectroscopy. Say for example, homodiatomic molecules, they cannot be determined by pure rotation or pure vibration spectra, but they can be studied by using combination of vibration and Raman or rotation and Raman. So that is why Raman spectroscopy becomes useful in order to study those molecules which are inactive in pure spectra. So let's start with that. So the rotational energy levels that we have is E equals to Bj j plus 1. So we'll start with first diatomic molecules. Okay. Now J can take value from 0 to 1, 2, and B is your rotational constant, which is given by 8 square by h square by 8 pi square I in joules. Okay. Now, what are the selection rules? Okay, so whenever we're talking about rotation Raman spectra, we are trying to visualize a molecule which is rotating in the presence of an electric field. And we are trying to see how the polarizability of that rotating molecule is changing because of its rotation. So let's say for that would mean what is the necessary condition for the molecule to be rotational Raman active? So the primary condition is that it should be Raman active. So its primary condition is Raman active. So that would mean the gross selection rule is del alpha del x should not be equals to 0. That means there should be a change in polarizability, right? The polarizability of the molecule should change, and we had seen in the last lecture for case of H2 that its polarizability changes when it rotates perpendicular to the field of the perpendicular to the electric field. So that would mean if there is a change in polarizability because of the rotation, you will find that the molecule is rotational Raman active. Now this is the case of gross selection rule. What is the specific selection rule? Now specific selection rule will tell you the change in rotational energy levels, and that is 0 plus minus 2. Let's talk about 0 first. 0 means J is equals to J dashed. What does it mean? Let's say you have two rotational energy levels. Because of the rotation, and in the presence of an electric field, it absorbs some energy from the incident light and then releases the exact same energy to come back to its initial state. So this is its J dash and this is its J. This is the case that we had seen in case when we were discussing Raman spectroscopy, the Rayleigh line, right? Where mu incident is equals to mu final, or mu initial equals to mu final, right? So if this is the case of Rayleigh line, so that means delta J equals to 0 will give you the Rayleigh line or the center of the Raman spectrum. Now plus minus 2. So we had seen that minus 2, minus 1, 0, plus 1, plus 2. This is your Q, P, O, R, S. So you will get O and S lines. Okay, how do you visualize this? So let's say you have energy levels like this. The molecule absorbs some energy and then releases some energy to come back to this level. So this is your J, this is your J dashed. So some amount of energy is absorbed in this case. So let's say this is your mu incident, this is your mu final. So that would mean that mu incident is greater than mu final, which was the case of Stokes line. And how do you visualize anti-Stokes line in this case? So let's say you have these energy levels. The molecule is initially here, absorbs some energy, and then releases to come back here. In this case, your delta J becomes -2. So some extra energy is released, which will make it anti-Stokes. Okay, so that would mean this is the case of O lines, this is the case of S lines. So S lines, so when we have the Raman spectra, this is your delta J equals to 0 or Rayleigh line. So this is S line, this is O line. Don't make a mistake, O comes first, so it will be first. Okay. Now, why is it +2? The physical interpretation is, let's say you take the example of HCl. Okay. So HCl will have dipole moment like this. In the next rotation, like this, then like this, and finally, so in this case, there is polarization occurring in the presence of electric field. The polarization is occurring in this direction. So if this direction polarization is occurring, the polarizability ellipsoid will look something like this, squeezed in that direction. In the next case, there is equal polarization occurring for this entire bond, so it's a sphere. Now again, the polarization, so the dipole moment is opposite to the electric field direction, but the polarization is going to occur along this direction only. So that would mean the polarizability ellipsoid will again look something like this, until unless the polarization is occurring on some other axis. Let's say in these two axes, the polarizability ellipsoid is still going to look the same. Again, just like the second case, it's going to be sphere, and finally the first state. So in one complete rotation of a diatomic molecule, the polarizability changes periodically twice. That is why +-2. Okay. Fine. So how would the lines look like? We'll have okay. Now this is the trend of the spectra that you had seen in case of Raman's pure rotation spectra. That is going to be here also, because the intensity of the peaks or the height of the peaks is decided by the population. So obviously the Stokes line are going to have more intense peaks than anti-Stokes lines, because less number of molecules are present at the higher energy levels. So this would be S, let's say 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. Similarly, this will be 0, O lines 1 to 0, O lines 2 to 1. Okay, so I made a mistake. Delta J should be 2. So this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5. Similarly, this should be 2, this should be 3, 4 to 2, 5 to 3, and so on. Okay. Now, what is the difference between the two peaks? For that, we need delta E. Now, following this rule, if you find delta E, it will come out to be B4J plus 6. Okay, between two transitions. For one transition between two energy levels for delta J equals to ±2, this is what you will get. That would mean for J equals to 0, you will get delta E to be 6B. So this is your first line. So that means this is your 6B. And for delta E, for j equals to 1, you will get this to be 10b. And it should be clear that for every other value after 0, the difference is going to be 4b. For j equals to 2, you will get 14b. For j equals to 3, you will get 18b. So it is now going to change it with respect to 4. So that would mean this is 10, 14, 18, 22 and so on. So the takeaway from this spectra is that the first line, whether it's in Stokes line or anti-Stokes line for diatomic molecules, is at 6b, and every other consecutive line is at a distance of 4b. There are questions from this that we'll see. Okay, so this is the case of a diatomic molecule. Now, when we talk about polyatomic molecules, the first and simplest example is of a linear molecule. Okay, now a linear molecule, we had seen in case of rotation spectra also, follows the same spectral properties like that of a diatomic molecule. The only difference is that the rotational constant B is now larger because of higher, B is smaller because of larger moment of inertia, because of larger reduced mass. Other than that, the trend remains the same for a linear molecule. Okay, one last thing, how the intensities of these peaks are governed. Now the intensity will be decided by the Maxwell-Boltzmann distribution. And what is the formula for that? Nj by N0 is equals to Gj by G0 e to the power minus delta E by Kt. Right? Now in this case, delta E will be B4J plus 6. That's all. Okay, so this is the case of diatomic molecule and linear polyatomic molecules. Now we'll look into the symmetric top molecules in case of polyatomic molecules. Okay, now let's take a look at symmetric top molecules. Now, if you remember, the symmetric top molecules have moment of inertias like Ia equals to Ib not equals to Ic, where Ic is not equals to 0, whereas this was equals to 0 for linear molecules. But in this case, it's not equals to 0. That would mean you will have two different moment of inertias, and for two different moment of inertias, you will get two different rotational constants. So for this, the rotational constant is B, and for this, rotational constant is A. Let's say I rename it. So, okay, it's consistent with the terminology. Okay, so I have got these two. Now, for B, I will get some rotational quantum number J. For this rotation, I'll get some rotational quantum number K. Now, in principle, this is considered to be the rotation along the axial axis, along the CCl bond on which the molecule is actually looking like a top. So that is your second rotational axis for this molecule, or the second different rotational quantum number. Okay. Now, what are the selection rules for this? Now, the selection rule states delta J can be 0, plus minus 1, plus minus 2, anything, and delta K has to be 0. The only condition for this is that if K is equals to 0, delta J has to be plus minus 2. Why is that? We'll see. So here are two conditions. Now, why delta K has to be equals to 0? Now, that is because along the bond axis, along the CCl bond axis, whatever rotation occurs, that is not going to bring any change in the polarizability of the molecule. Okay, so you can imagine this in terms of, I don't know if I can show you. So let's say you have 3 hydrogen atoms and 1 chlorine. It should be the other way around, but fine. Now, if you rotate this, there is no change going to occur in the polarizability ellipsoid of the molecule. So if that is true, Now, this would not be true if I rotate the molecule like this. Now, the dipole moment of the entire molecule is changing, and in presence of an electric field, the polarizability is also going to change. But in this case, rotation along this is not going to produce any change in the dipole moment, and hence there is no change in the polarizability. Now, if that is true, then what do we have? That would mean for rotations along this axis would produce delta K not equals to 0, and those rotations are inactive. So for that is why in rotational Raman spectroscopy, for this molecule to be active, delta K has to be 0. There should not be change in the rotational quantum number along the bond axis, that is K. Okay, and this is fine. Now in case of K equals to 0, okay, one more thing, K can have values from minus J to plus J. Okay, now why at K equals to 0 delta J has to be plus minus 2? That is because if you look at these energy levels, let's say this is J equals to 0, K can have only one value, K equals to 0. For J equals to 1, K can have value minus 1, plus 1 and 0. The problem is that K equals to 0. The K equals to 0 means this rotation we are talking about. Now in this case, the molecule is going to have only one rotation along this bond axis. And just like we discussed, that if this is the rotation along this bond axis, the molecule is going to be inactive. So that would mean you cannot do the transition from J equals to 0 to J equals to 1, because at that condition K is equals to 0. This is a not allowed transition. You have to do a transition to J equals to 2. Okay, so that you have let's say more allowed values of K. Fine. So this is the case of this for K equals to 0, or let's say for J equals to 0 we get K equals to 0. For this we get delta J equals to plus minus 2. How would the lines look like? Let's say, okay, let's take the we'll see that later. Fine. I don't think I have anything else to tell in symmetric top molecules. Next, let's take a look at spherical molecules like CH4, SF6. Now, spherical molecules does not matter in which direction they rotate, the dipole moment is not going to change. If there is no change in the dipole moment, or let's say if there is no change in the electron cloud of the molecule, then there is no change in the polarizability. So it does not matter at what orientation you keep or at what axis you rotate, the polarizability ellipsoid is not going to change. If the polarizability ellipsoid is not going to change, the molecule is not going to be Raman active, and that is why these molecules are rotation Raman inactive. And the last is asymmetric molecules. Just like in case of pure rotation spectra, asymmetric molecules are really difficult to study because of the large number of splitted lines that you get for the three different rotational constant. It is you can say similarly difficult to study these molecules in case of rotational Raman spectra also. So we are not going to discuss that here. Okay. So I think that's all I wanted to discuss. Now we'll start with the questions. Let me just take a look if I forgot something. Yeah, I think I forgot something. Yeah, fine. Okay, so delta E for this case. Okay, now we know delta E for delta J equals to plus minus 2 is B 4J plus 6, which is the case of this. But if you have this case, you will get one more delta E for delta J equals to plus minus 1. That will be B, or let's say 2BJ plus 1, that we had seen earlier in pure rotational spectra. So that means you have two different transitions occurring in this case. That would mean you will get, okay, so this is let's say R line and this is your S line. Let's say I'm considering the plus case. So you have R and S lines. So that would mean your spectra would look something like this. Okay, now first line, which is larger? This is for j equals to 0. This is 6b for j equals to 0. This is 2b. So this is going to be 2b. And this is going to be r 0 to 1. The next is going to be at 6b. Do we have another value here? If I put 1 here, I get 1 plus 1, 2, 2, 2, 4. So I have another line at 4b. I hope I am not doing any mistake here. 0 will have 2b, 2bj plus 1, 2bj plus 1 is fine. Okay, so I'll have another line 4b 1 to 2. Then I have for j equals to 2, I'll have 6b. Correct? And at the same time, I have one line from here for j equals to 0. So this is the same line for s0 to 2. Right? So that means, let's say I do it with a different color. So this would look something like this. Okay. That would mean that here an S line and R line has overlapped. What's going to be the next line? Next is going to be at 8. And then we are going to have one at 10. Now again, for j equals to 1, I'll get 10b for an S line. So let's say this is your R 2, 3, 4 to 5, and at the same time I have S1 to 3. So again, this is going to be an overlap. So what do I mean from this spectrum? That from the, let's say I'm considering, if you forget the first line, from 4b, every alternate line is going to have an overlap of R and S peaks. So that is the takeaway from here, that in case of symmetric top molecules, consecutive lines have overlap of R and S lines. Okay, fine. Now one last thing, let's try to visualize this. Why in this case delta j equals to 0? Also delta j equals to plus minus 2. So let's say you have these 3 hydrogens and it does one complete rotation to give you, and then you have another complete rotation to give you this. So one half rotation and then one complete rotation. So that would mean in this case the polarizability ellipsoid is going to look like not really like this. The dipole moment is like this. Let's say the electric field is along this direction. So there is going to be polarization along this. The polarizability ellipsoid looks like this. Now in this direction, I am still applying electric field like this. The polarizability ellipsoid is going to look like this. And finally, again, it's going to remain like this. So that would mean in one complete rotation, the polarizability ellipsoid has periodically taken the same shape twice. That is why, just by the logic that we had used for diatomic molecules, it's going to be delta J equals to plus minus 2. And if you see carefully, the rotation here is not along the CCl axial bond. Okay. Fine. Now we'll start with the question that we have. 3 to 4 questions have come in the last 1 to 2 years. We'll start with that, and we'll move on to the older questions. Okay, I would like to mention that I made a mistake in drawing the spectra for symmetric top molecules. This will be at 4b. There will be no 2b line because, as we said, for j equals to 0, delta j becomes plus minus 2. So that would be that would mean that we will not get a peak at 4b. Rather, this peak for j equals to 0 to j equals to 2, the peak is going to be at 6b. The first peak is going to be for delta j equals to plus 1 for j equals to 1. That means this will be the case for this one, for j equals to 1 transition. So that was a mistake I wanted to correct. So let's take a look at the questions we have. So the first question we have is from December 18. The question says the third and fourth lines in rotation Raman spectra of CO are separated by 8 centimeter inverse. So third and fourth line, that would mean, okay, so we had seen the difference between two, now CO is a diatomic molecules. For diatomic molecules, the difference was 4 peaks between two lines. So that would mean the 4B is given as 8 centimeter inverse, or B is 2 centimeter inverse. The CO bond length is given by, now B is equals to what? H by 8 pi square IC, and I is what? I is mu r square. So simply combine the two, we can write r square is equals to H by 8 pi square BC, and in place of B, let's say I am writing 2. So that would mean this is your 16, and mu, this mu comes. Or if I want to remove this square, I simply get this, which is given in option number A. The next question we have is from December 2019. You can understand how important rotation Raman spectra is by the frequency of questions that have come in the last few years. The question says, in the pure rotational microwave spectrum of an XY molecule, XY, that means diatomic, the adjacent lines are separated by 4 centimeter inverse. So that means this is your 4B, or B equals to 1. If the molecule is irradiated by a radiation of 30,000 centimeter inverse, so let's say your mu excitation is 30,000 centimeter inverse, the first Stokes line will appear at. Now we know for Stokes line, what do we have? Mu excitation minus delta E for the first line. For the first line, what is your delta E? We have 6B, right? So that would mean this is minus 6B. That is 30,000 minus 6. That is, have I made a mistake? Separated by 4 centimeter inverse. Okay, I have made a mistake. The mistake is I considered this to be rotation Raman spectra. In pure rotation spectra, the difference is 4B. So this comes out to be 2. So this would be 12, which is 29988, which is the correct answer. I don't remember the option, but this should be the correct answer. Oh, there were, I don't remember the options. Okay, fine. And the next question we have is from December 2019 of the Assam Net. And the question says, difference between first Stokes and anti-Stokes transitions of a diatomic molecule in rotation Raman spectra is 24. So if you take a look at first Stokes and first anti-Stokes, the difference is 12B. So that means they are saying 12B is 24 centimeter inverse. The separation between adjacent lines in pure rotation spectra. Now in pure rotation spectra, the difference is 12B. So let's say I'm simply, its difference is 2B. So if I divide this by 6, I'll get 2B. If I divide this by 6, I'll get 4. The answer should be 4. Okay, but I think I made a mistake. The difference between first Stokes and anti-Stokes transitions of a diatomic molecule in rotational spectra is 24. That is fine. The separation between adjacent lines in pure rotation spectra of a molecule. Yeah, I think it's fine. Okay, so the last question from the recent year is from December TIFR 2019, and it's a really good question. Suppose one is recording a Raman spectrum of a solution with yellow color light. So mu excitation is for yellow color. Okay. As an excitation source, the detected photons have both green and red color, resulting in two peaks. So that means the released photon has red and green color. If one starts heating the solution, which of the following is likely to happen? So if you remember with Gauss, this is the increase in lambda and this is the increase in energy levels. So that would mean yellow has an energy, green has higher than that, and red has lower than that. How do you justify this? Let's say you have three energy levels. Let's say 4. Okay. And the molecule is here. You give yellow light, it takes some energy, and let's say it comes here. Another possibility is it comes here. That would mean that in this case, some energy is absorbed. That would mean the resulting detected light will have lower energy, which is the red case. And let's say it goes to lower energy levels. In that case, more energy is released, which will be the green case. Now, you can consider it in this sense also that more number of molecules are going to do the upward transition more than the molecules which are going to do the lower transition. Why? Because more number of molecules are at lower energy levels than at the higher energy levels. So it might so happen that there is another possibility that, let's say, there is one molecule which is here, which goes here and then comes back here. This will also give you green light. But in this case, the number of transitions occurring will be low as compared to the case wherein the molecules go up and then release less. So that the point that I'm trying to make is, more the population of any energy level, more the number of transitions you're going to see for that particular particular mode. So that would mean that what are the options? Green peak becomes blue, green peak becomes red. By heating, you do not change the position of the peaks. What you change is the intensity. The third option says photon count of green peak increases. Just that's what I wanted to mean. If you heat, more and more molecules are going to be present here and they are going to release energy because of the Raman effect. So the green intensity is going to increase, and option C was the correct answer. Okay, so the next question we have is from June 2011. A question says the rotational constant of N2 is 2 centimeter inverse. The wave number of incident rotation in a Raman spectrometer is mu incident is 20487 centimeter inverse. What is the wave number of the first scattered Stokes line? Diatomic molecule 6b, that means minus 12. This will be 20475, which is given in option number B. Okay, so the next question we have is okay, no, not this one. Yeah, from GATE 2009. I don't have space. Okay, GATE 2009. The question says the rotational Raman spectrum of F2 shows a series of Stokes line at 19230.769, 19227.238, and 19223.707. The rotational constant, we have to find the rotational constant. First, let's find the difference. We need the delta E between these. So let's say for these two, the difference is This was 230. Okay. So 1, 3, 5, 3. Between these two, 1, 3, 5, 3. Right? Yeah. So that means the difference is same. So that means they are lines like difference between two Stokes lines, as has been mentioned. So we know for diatomic molecules, the difference between Stokes lines is 4b. So that means b is equals to 3.531 by 4. But mind it, the options are given in hertz. So that would mean you have to multiply this by 3 into 10 power 10 centimeter second inverse. So this would give you 3, 9, 5, 10 by 4. This would be 2, 6, 4, 7, 5. Hopefully I am correct here. Into 10 power 10, or according to the options, let's say 26.475 into 10 power 9. This is gigahertz, which is option number A. So I think that's all the questions I had to discuss from this part of molecular spectroscopy. Yeah. So that's all the questions that we had. So we are done with the rotational Raman spectra. In the next lecture, I'll be discussing the effect of nuclear spin statistics on rotational Raman spectra. There are a couple of questions from that. We'll discuss that also. And then we'll move on to the next coming lecture to vibrational Raman spectra.